Two beer nerds and 7 beers. This is Fresh Fest with Guzzle and Frag.
Next up on the docket, we have a double IPA or a double New England IPA. It's a collaboration between Dancing Gnome Beer and Warcloud Brewing Company. Now, Dancing Gnome is out of Pittsburgh and Warcloud actually out of California. So this is actually a Northeast style IPA, which we were talking about, and it incorporates actually a series of different hops here at that hopefully, we'll see if we can pick them out or not. Should be pretty fun. And if we're looking at that out, I didn't look, but instead of feathers, we actually have like a hop. I mean, I'm kind of a corny guy. I think that's pretty neat, but maybe it's just me. And the tab is actually black, which once again, like it's just this small attention to detail that I really, really do enjoy. Let's see how this guy is. All right, so far, actually looking at this guy, like look at that color. It's actually a little bit deeper, a little bit more hazy than the previous beer that we had actually tried. Just getting a little bit of a good head here just so that we can release some more aromatics and things like that. But like this really does. Honestly, it almost is reminiscent of pineapple juice for me. That's pretty interesting. And then like on the top, you do get like more like a tropical like fruit kind of
This
nose,
in my
right?
mind is what the New England style IPA is all about. Looks like orange juice, first of all.
Yes.
And then you smell it, and then you get the citrus.
Almost like.
But I do get some hops too. Not just citrus, but like a lot of hops. Definitely that's going to be prominent, I think.
Hop-wise, would you think like that resiny kind of like dank, like what, or is it like light on your nose? Like
Maybe light, yeah.
Okay.
Until I taste it, I don't know. Because again, like my palate is not sophisticated to be like, oh, I know what hop this is, so.
I don't think that you give yourself enough credit, but because I would not have noticed the hop outside of like this fruit character like on the nose. Fruit being citrus or like tropical, so.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
This has been cool. Wow.
Aptly named wise words, so choose yours carefully, please.
Well, this beer definitely took a turn I was kind of not expecting, which is a good thing. Wow. So yeah, I think this is a good example of like what the Northeast style IPA is all about. Again, it's like there's plenty of hop character, but also the citrus. I don't want to say not orange, but like you remember that soda squirt?
Oh yeah.
I could kind of squirt like right at the beginning, and then the hops take over, and then it's like the hops run the roost right after that. It's like you get that initial blast of that kind of light grapefruity kind of citrus, and then boom, the hops take it from there. So I don't know, but like you just look at the color and like how hazy it is and everything. Like this is the Northeast style with the juiciness kind of this is what I recognize as that style. Like
so in that way, like, do you enjoy this?
I think it's, I mean,
the conversation that we've been having, it's like, okay, like you go to a bar and they have this, they have that hoppy pills, or they have maybe a Bud Light or a Coors Light, like on tap. Would you choose this?
Over the hoppy pills?
Yes.
Probably not.
The same hoppy pills that we
Now,
have.
I would have ordered this probably,
Yeah.
and then I would have had this glass, and I would say, okay, give me the hoppy pills
Okay.
next. Yeah.
Solid. Okay. So you would have tried it.
I would have definitely
tried
tried it. Absolutely, yeah.
Is it too much, like on your palate, or is it
No,
just like?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I think that's it. If we're talking about it, it's almost like bell curving, right? Like, so you get to that peak like mid, and then like it fades, but it fades elegantly.
It does.
On that palate, to where once again, like it's not as long as a finish as like the previous beer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, whenever it does kind of like come to the end game of it all, there is that like that sweet, that tiny bit of like sweetness on the back of the tongue to where you're just like, huh, like I can understand where maybe mid palate, you're like, oh man, like it's a lot. This actually is it's moderately aggressive whenever it comes to the hops, But like on that finish, once again, like it's almost enticing in the way that like that subtle sweetness is like, okay, let's think about this again. Maybe I should like do another pull. And it depends on how much you're actually going to like consume at one point, right? Like if you're just gonna sip at it, it's okay. But like if you actually get a good mouthful, then you can get that nuance where you actually do get like that citrus, a little bit of that tropical citrus.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like pineapple by any means, or even like a guava or like passion fruit, but like there is something that is a little tropical about it. Not even like pina colada like, but at the same time, like as you get that sweetness like on the front of your palate, really hoppy, and the slight sweetness on the back end, that's where they have really created this balance. Like Dancing Gnome, Warcloud Brewing, like kudos.
It's funny because we were talking about Northeast style IPAs earlier, but I feel like one thing that probably gets overlooked a lot in IPAs is like the mouthfeel and the body of it. And I feel like this nails it. Like when I drink this, again, I think about like Treehouse and Trillium and all those like, you know, Heady Topper and Focal Banger and all those like classic Northeast style IPAs. This, the way the mouthfeel of it all feels similar to that. And like, I guess there must be a way to replicate that, but I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin. And like, that's really interesting that they were able to pull that off. And then kind of like do their own thing with like all the hops and stuff and then have it be less focus on the citrus and like kind of orange juice aspect and more on, I think they use what, 4 hop varietals in this?
I think that, it
was like 4 different kinds.
kinds.
You could tell that they were like, let's go in, let's get into the hops and like, let's play around with that and let's, you know,
right.
take this combination and make it this, you know.
Yeah,
so.
they've created that such a balance with that, right? Maybe, you know, with the Strata, it was a little too tropical. So then they had like the Nelson or the Enigma, like on the back end right there to kind of like smooth it out. But at the same time, like I am a very, very corny individual. Like this is definitely a dancing war between like hoppiness and like the sweet, right? Like you're bitter and you're sweet and just trying to find that middle ground. And I think that they've done it quite well.
Yeah, this is a really good example of a good Northeast style IPA. And again, you know, you got Warcloud from California, and then Dancing Gnome from Pennsylvania. So I'm going to lean on Dancing Gnome as probably their influence on this Northeast style. They're really close.
Absolutely.
And then of course maybe it was Warcloud that came out with like let's play with the hops. Let's do something crazy there.
Yeah.
Let's
Warcloud. We're not discounting you at all.
I bet Warcloud was like they know hops probably really well, being a California brewery. I bet that was their expertise. They came in and they said we're going to play with the hops and do something weird and like something that maybe they haven't tried before. And I think their end result's pretty darn tasty.
Palatable to you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's huge. Because typically, anytime that we've talked about IPAs, it's just like, okay, yeah, man, it's just hops. Like, whatever. It's like bitter juice, bitter water, whatever it might be. And so this is like, to have a little bit of a distinction, I think that's a very
there's more going on in this
thing.
than your average IPA. And even from the last beer, I mean, Northeast style versus hazy. Maybe there's the distinction. Like maybe we don't understand Northeast enough. Whereas you can't call any hazy a Northeast style just because it's hazy.
Right.
Maybe there's more to it. Maybe we're discounting something about the difference there. Like, I don't know. Because that last one was on the can, it says hazy IPA. It does not say Northeast style IPA. But this one, I think we looked it up. It was classified as a Northeast style IPA.
Yeah, in spite of like what it says on the can, because can actually does not let you know.
Yeah, it doesn't even say it's
an
IPA.
Yeah,
so
otherwise
we guessed.
Yeah, we had 100% guessed because based upon the percentage that it had put out there, which is 8,
and the can art,
which confirms. Oh yes, also the can art, which confirms what
you're
thinking about.
Double IPA,
being double at like that 8%.
I guess there's something to say there too. Is that a double IPA if it's not handled well, you might taste the alcohol more. But in this, I don't taste it at all.
It's not boozy.
Yeah,
in
and you could
the
just sip
slightest.
this and be like, oh, it's 8%. What? I just had 3 of them. Okay. Yeah, you wouldn't have probably guessed. This was 8%. I mean,
Yeah.
because I don't get any of the alcohol whatsoever.
No, and I think that's where, if we're talking about, and that's an excellent point, but that's where double IPAs and even triples are really prized in the way that it's just like the value that they bring to the table is that you don't necessarily taste the booze on them at all, right? Like as you're exhaling afterwards, like maybe you'll taste a little bit of that booze like on your palate, but at the same time, like as you're drinking it, you don't. Whereas we've had some of those where it's like, you're a dragon, man. You're like straight up just breathing fire.
And by the way, to be a triple IPA, you got to be 10% or above. So that's like really getting up there. I mean, you see a triple IPA, you know what you're getting into, hopefully. Or if not, now we've told you what you're getting into.
straight up strong boy.
10%. Yeah.
We've never blacked out on any of that at all.
No, never.
Never.
But yeah, that's kind of like, it's interesting, like 10% is sort of that boundary of like, stouts, triple IPAs, barley wines. IPAs can be sneaky because there's so many different ways they can sort of mask that alcohol, and it's a lot of it's hops, or in this case, could be sometimes even citrus, or like, with a lot of stouts, sometimes, because stouts, if there's no adjuncts in there, what are you going to hide behind? It's just malts. I mean, so again, like a lot of skill when you're making a stout or any type of beer, I think, is to how can we cover this, the alcohol, the boozy factor with what we have to work with, just, the base ingredients and no adjuncts. And then if you can say like, holy shit, this 11% stout tastes really good. It's roasty, and it's like, I get all that malt character, and it like the bitterness isn't over the top, and you're just like, damn, it's a really easy drinking beer. It's like, uh-oh, you're in trouble, because that's 11% is nothing to mess around with, if you're just like, oh, it tastes great.
Or similar with like, a really great brewed like double, triple IPA. Like
Yeah,
same
so
thing.
like we were talking earlier about like you have a beer on a hot day or something. This 8%, you're just like, oh, yeah, this is refreshing, and it's kind of a little bit like of the citrus and like all the hops, and
It's bright.
it has a nice finish, and I'm just like, oh, this is great. I feel refreshed. And there's like I said, you have 3 of them and then like one sitting, and before you get up to go to the bathroom and you stand up and you're like, whoa, wait a minit, like, yeah, because it can sneak up.
100%. And that's where I feel like this would be good at that point, or almost at any time. I mean, like even right now, as we're just kind of sitting in this like 50-ish degree weather, like this is still very, very comforting. Like I really enjoy it.
I mean, Kent brought up a great point. Sometimes, I mean, one of the things that probably turns me off the IPAs is the bitter finish that lasts a mile. And I know some people probably love that, but for me, this finish is actually pretty clean. Like it has a hoppy finish, but then it fades out, and it like lets you kind of savor it long enough, and then it's gone, and you don't need it anymore. And that shows skill too, to have that as, the brewers. Maybe they intended that. Maybe that was a happy result of what they did together. But I mean,
Tapers it in that
it
way
tapers off, exactly.
to where you literally you're just like, like let me think about that again. Let me like do another.
Let me have
pull,
another
drink.
sip.
Yeah. And I think that is, if I were a brewer, I think that's what I would go for. Is that like it is about that entire just kind of like circle of flavors, but at the same time, like wherever we end, it should inspire you to drink again and see kind of like what you had tasted before versus what you're tasting like now.
Yeah, and like, kind of ties into this about the finish and if the finish lasts too long, and Kent and I were talking about what order do we go in, and it's like, well, IPAs could in theory wreck our palate to the point where like the sours and the stout, it's actually not a stout, we found out, but
Yes.
the last beer would be jeopardized, because sometimes these IPAs, I mean, the finish just doesn't end, and it's just like you get that hop, and it's just like it won't go away, and like
It's sticky, like it's
sticky,
it
and it's
sticks
like,
there.
oh man. So
And in that way, I think that our progression, where we were just kind of spitballing about it, is probably the right way to go, because if we were to go to sour after this guy, like honestly, I mean, we would have gotten some of the nuance, but at the same time, like that hoppiness would have just still
Totally.
been there, just
Yep.
like right on your tongue. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we went in the right order for sure.
Yeah, 100%,
Cheers,
man.
man. Thank you
Cheers.
for thinking of that.
Yeah. Lucky guess. Still incredibly solid.
That's really good. I mean, like I said, I don't like beers that, if the focus of the beer is the hops, I'm lost on that. Because, yes, every beer needs hops, but that is not the
Be
main.
all and all.
Yeah, that's not what attracts me to the beer. It's actually the malts, moreover than not, because I love malty beer. I love barley wine, stouts, even though stouts can be bitter. But
Yes.
it's a different bitterness. It's like a roasty bitterness. It's like chocolate or like even coffee, even though I don't like coffee. But that's the type of bitterness we're talking about, like a roasty bitterness versus this, which is the piney and the pine cone kind of.
Yeah.
Sap
Earthy,
bitterness.
yeah,
Earthy, yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes even dank or like, that kind of thing. And it's like, there's an argument to be made there too, is like Lagunitas is a good example. It's like, how dank can we make it? And they go hard on that, and they go all the way. And that's pretty interesting too. But like, again, I'm not part of that. That's not what I go after for beer. I want malts, and
It's not a bad thing though.
well, that's just what I'm looking for. So, but I mean, hey, like you said, it's all about balance. These guys did a really good job balancing the Northeast style IPA with 4 hop varietals that they clearly had fun with to make something that's pretty unique. Maybe, I mean, again, I don't drink a lot of IPAs, but I don't hate this one at all. And it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. To be clear, let's see, Strata, Nelson, Enigma, and Citra on that. So that's where we're kind of talking about a little bit of like tropicalness up front with like that Strata. I feel like, and maybe very clearly I'm not the expert, but like where like the following two with like Nelson and Enigma, it just kind of like, or was it Simcoe? Like they kind of like smooth it out, and then like that Citra just gives it a little bit of that citrus brightness on the end. So it's good.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed our Fresh Fest impressions. Thanks to my buddy Kent for joining up and sharing the beers. Like, subscribe, and let us know what you think. Stay tuned for more first impressions of the 7 Fresh Fest beers. More great beer content's on the way. # Fresh Fridays, and we'll see you next Friday for the last Fresh Fest beer, a dark wheat ale. Cheers.